All right. Happy Friday, everybody. I'm Adrian Park. With me, the System Whisperer, Jay Carter. So, I was reading this. Actually, I read this years ago, and I was reminded of it this week. Um, Going back to 1915, uh,
Oof.
this guy, yeah, so guy by the name of Earl Dean was working at a company called the Root Glass Company, and he was given a design to or a brief to design a bottle, which would one be recognized in the dark, and then two, if it was smashed, would still be recognized
Wow.
as okay. So the company that he did that for was Coca-Cola, and he used the cocoa bean pod as his inspiration, and that bottle that he designed is still the old school bottles that they produce today. And so the idea was that you could smash it on the ground and you'd still know it was a Coke bottle.
Wow.
So I love that story, right?
hmm
Um, but when it comes to branding for contractors, I mean, it's a really great story for branding, and especially if you're selling branding. I mean, what
hmm
a great story, Coca-Cola, and they use that bottle for, I mean, for the design today, the way it's kind of swoopy and the letters and all of that. But I mean, if I've got my trucks and maybe I got a couple of machines and maybe I've got a trailer if I'm doing okay, right? And I'm rolling around town and my men are in t-shirts or they're in some sort of like company sponsored garb. Like, what is branding for like the contractor that's doing, 4, 5, 6, 8, 10 million bucks? Like, what does that look like for them?
Yeah. So first of all, I love this topic. So I'll try and keep myself from going off here on a long rant. But in the way that I would explain branding, first and foremost, is basically your image, right? Is what you are um projecting to the market. Okay. Now there's two types of branding. All right. There is a direct response type branding, all right, or type marketing. And then
Okay.
there is straight branding, which is like Coca-Cola does. So
Right.
Coca-Cola brands their company. They spend $3 billion so that people know their name and know their logo. Okay.
More than
But
the
the
GDP of some countries.
right, but here's where contractors make their first fatal error is that they feel that putting their name or their brand or their logo on something like Coca-Cola does is going to bring awareness or get people to buy from them. And it's absolutely wrong. You do not, no contractor that I am aware of, or have had in any interaction can afford to truly do branding. Okay.
Right.
And the reason why is because there has to be a response to that branding. So what I try to encourage guys to really focus on is don't go about and don't confuse advertising. But when you're talking strictly brand is the image you want to project to the market. And if you're projecting an image to the market, make sure that it's followed by a request for a direct response. So I'll give you an example. Those t-shirts that you're going to have. Okay.
Right.
Most guys will put their phone number on the back. Great. That's a good example of branding. Very low response. All right. The
Right.
reason why
Right.
is because it's not asking somebody to take a step. And people don't really get this, but if they were to change the message on the back being like, do you need a roof?
Right.
Here's my QR code, call now. That is a direct response example that tells them the next step to make, right? So a lot of it is messaging and copy, but with your particular brand, where you want to be focused is if I'm going to put a piece of branding. So in other words, I'm going to pay to have my company advertised somewhere. All right. And I'm not going to include what we would call a CTA or call to action or anything. I may as well pull the money out of my pocket, take a lighter out of the other one, and light it on fire because that's what you're doing. And I've learned this through stupid branding ideas like putting my one year I sponsored an OHL hockey team and spent $15,000 putting my brand on
Right.
the boards. Not one single job from that. But again, the intent of it is different, right? So
Right.
are people more aware of my company? Yeah, maybe. But is there enough budget there to really make a branding campaign? And the answer is no.
Right.
So guys getting their names on park benches and stuff, unless it's coming with a direct CTA in front of an audience segment you're going to do business with,
Right.
because it's not worth branding to the widest market possible. That's stupid. That's the spray and pray method, right? So if I were to give any recommendations here, is really focus on direct response marketing. Those are things like if we were to talk about infomercials. Okay, infomercials
Okay.
are wildly successful.
Yeah,
All
they're
right,
very
but
successful.
think about why. Think about why, and if there's branding in infomercials as well, like ShamWow. We all know ShamWow, right? We all know that the stupid commercials, like, but wait, today and today only, we've all been subjected to these at one point or another. All
Right.
right, they're extremely effective, and it's all because it's based on taking an action or a response, right? And incorporated with your brand. So again, truck wraps and stuff like that. Excellent, right? As long as they have
Got a
a
call to
clear
action.
call
Yeah.
to action, right?
Yeah.
So I see too many times that guys figure that they're doing the right thing, and it's an honest thing, but they put up their logos or they put up just their phone number, and they think that's advertising, which I mean, in a low frequency way it is,
Right.
but it's not going to bring business. So you have to be very clear. Is this meant to make somebody call me to get a quote? Is this meant for somebody to call me to get a job? Is this meant for somebody to call me? And that's where brand really, in my opinion anyways, brand really becomes important, right? So again, if I'm doing a CTA, right, a piece of marketing, let's say it's an ad on Facebook, okay?
Yeah.
I've even seen this. Guys just put their logos on there. There's no call to action. It's just like, what do you want
Right.
people to assume about that? They're gonna take the intent behind that being like, hey, they just want us to know that they're a roofing company. Great. That's amazing.
Great. Well,
Awesome.
I think too, we're all, when you own a business, I think it's important to remember that we all have this blind spot where we are, whether we realize it or not, in the builder's founder's trap,
Mm-hmm.
right? It's our baby. And so to us, even though
Yep.
to everybody else it looks like an alien, to
Right.
us it's the most beautiful thing we've ever seen, right? And
Mm-hmm.
especially if you put some money into your logo, right? And it's your
Mm-hmm.
name, right? Like it's like this you just look at it with, it's like, it's got this halo around it, and everybody else just sees another contractor, right?
Right.
And so I think it's so easy to, you just think, oh, they're going to look at this and, they're going to have the same response I am. No, they're not. There's no
Right.
emotion for anybody but you and maybe your wife or
Mm-hmm.
husband or
Not
whatever.
even.
Right. Yeah.
Not
Yeah.
even. It
Not
comes.
even. Right.
It
They're
comes back.
like you
They
said.
actually despise it. It comes back to the good old saying, you can love your business all you want. Your business will never love you back. Right.
Right.
So, if you look at why we're doing it and the intent behind what we're doing, right? So a lot of guys, first of all, they confuse, like I said, advertising, branding, like all of this stuff is, and for a founder and for guys, they might do one activity within advertising and have a logo and think that's branding. But really, we have to think further than that. We have to think of what does your company project? So what's the visual of your company? That's
Right.
your brand, right? Advertising is the words that go with that. So what are you saying? What's your message to the
Right.
market, right? So saying and showing, two different things, right? So again, you could think of branding as saying no words and putting on the best, logoed shirt you've got and going out and trying to attract business, right? Whereas advertising, it's the messaging that's going behind
Right.
that. So those are the words and the type of words you're directing towards a certain market to attract them back to your business. Does that make sense?
It does. I was thinking about this too, Jay. So, one of the things that I think a lot of us are guilty of, and I know I have been at different points, is that, again, it doesn't, it's great to have a great looking logo or color scheme or all that, but what's underneath it, right? Because
Yeah.
branding is just as much about who you are, right? How you show up for your customers, partners, vendors, et cetera, than it is like, and frankly speaking, if you have you can have a great marketing campaign or a message or a great call to action, get a lot of response, but then if you don't deliver,
That's right. Well,
right?
that goes into, brand reputation and stuff. But again, I think the most important point here that I could make is understanding the difference between brand marketing, right? That's things like logos, like that's one thing. Coca-Cola is your brand marketing, classic example.
Right.
Okay.
Right.
And direct response marketing. Okay. So again, if we're going to take anything of value here, is knowing the difference between the two, because this is what happens to contractors. And I got caught up in it for years. It's very easy to sell brand marketing because we're all used to seeing it. We're all used to
Right.
seeing Coca-Cola. Oh, that worked for them. That's what I should do.
Right.
Putting the logos on, like all that stuff. But at the end of the day, we have to think as contractors, the only thing scalable in our business, the only thing that we're ever going to retire from, is the way we build our essentially our brand, is the marketing that gives us a predictable result to our sales, right? And then sales. Those two things are the only things that are scalable in your business. There is everything after that is an expense and it's a role, and it has a
Right.
maximum monetary value you can pay it. Marketing, good direct response marketing has no monetary value. And here's a saying that I'd like to maybe share with them. Everybody is, the one that can afford to spend the most for leads and for marketing wins, right?
Yeah.
But flat out, if I can afford to spend $1,500 to acquire a customer, but you can only afford to pay 100, I win.
Right.
Right now, that marketing budget or that campaign, and a lot of contractors, I think, get lost in this world of throwing money at the problem, right? Thinking that it's an expense, right? And that's a fatal mistake I fell into for a long time. That cost me dearly, because that opens you up essentially to being taken advantage of by marketing companies, where you spend more money than you make doing it, right? And how many guys have those stories of like, hey, I paid $10,000 on this website and I haven't got a single lead from it. Yeah, you're right, because you don't understand that in order for that website to convert, you need to drive traffic to it. Well, no one tells them that when they're trying to sell them a $10,000 branded website, right? If you don't have traffic going there, it's useless, right?
Well, I think you make a couple of really good points, because there are all these things that if they're not utilized, they're just pretty things that are pretty expensive things, right?
Right.
They're pretty, but they're fucking expensive. And website's one of them. Having a social media accounts where it's just like, look at us, look at us, look at us, but there's
useless.
no call to action.
Right.
I mean, it's a good step in the right direction, right?
Right.
Having great merch, having a great logo or a great tag on your wraps for trucks, I mean, again, great. I mean, I think everybody's doing that, or trailers or machines or whatever. So what's the, for those that, people watching today, they're like, well, I'm doing all that stuff and I get calls, right? And I mean, we got calls from having our trucks wrapped and stuff.
Yeah.
What's the blocking and tackling here? Like, what's the little hack or the better way to get more out of that?
So the very first thing, high level view, all right, is know that cost. Okay. So yes, you're getting calls. All right. You might be, and again, there is a place for some branding and marketing, but you want to be sure of how much return on your investment you're getting for each piece of marketing that you're doing. Okay. So we track this like as much as we track our bottom line numbers, we want to
Right.
know, did it come from a lawn
Yep.
sign? Did we
Yep.
like, where did that advertise? That's the first step, is know
Yep.
where people found your name.
Yep.
Why? Because you're going to find out very quickly that there's many, literally hundreds of different ways to market and advertise for your business. Okay. Not all, actually none are equal or the same. Okay. And where it becomes very confusing is because you can be sold on the belief that I have this great brand and you believe it and you're attached to it, and somebody's
Right.
going to put it out in the world for you, and that's amazing. But where it's not doing you any favors or any getting you any returns and really growing your business, is understanding that, hey, listen, I just took and invested $1,200 or $5,000. It doesn't matter. And every client that comes through from that, every person I generate that is a qualified sale, all right, now becomes an ROI. So they're returning your investment,
Right.
right? I don't look at any marketing as an expense. I only look at it as an investment.
Yeah. Yeah. I
So
agree.
again, this is where guys get into trouble, is that they're looking at it as, hey, I need to spend money on marketing, but it's an expense. So like they're writing it off, being like, I'm just going to throw this out there
Right.
and hope for the best. And well, people will know my name. Well, guess what, guys? Like I use the example of putting my name on the hockey boards. Um, it it brought zero customers. No one called us and said, hey, I seen your number on the boards at the rink. Now, maybe it led to some people being aware of us overall,
Right.
but that was a very good example of throwing money away.
Right.
Okay. Where I could have taken that. And for guys that are just starting out, I want you to really pay attention to this. Okay. Simple scales, right? Complicated fails. When we're looking at ways to get high ROI, you know what, the hands down still the best one, and I'll let you in on this. A sales letter.
Yeah.
All right. An actual sales letter written to a demographic that's going to respond to it. So for example, if I want to target baby boomers in a high net worth community or retirement community, I'm going to write a message that speaks directly to them, and I'm going to use images that would reinforce the brand I'm trying to create. Right.
Right.
So for example, I'm going to go into a high net worth thing, and I'm going to talk about their last roof they'll ever have to place on their home, and it on their forever home. All right. What's that say? This is your,
Yeah.
like, because
Yeah.
they're retiring and it's their last roof, it's investment grade. I'm going to use, and again, we're branding to them that my company is the absolute expert in protecting your investment long term. Right. So again, my avatar is going to be high net worth and investment aware. All right. And I'm going to position myself in that area to get a direct response. What do I want them to do next? Right. Now that I've put myself in front of them, right? Did I show up with just a logo t-shirt and smile and just look at them like
Oh.
a lonely dog? But no, of course not. Right. I show up and I communicate a message, and I ask them to take action if they resonated with that message or brand. Right. So
Right.
you see the big difference there is that I'm going to get 10 to 20 times more response to those types of campaigns. So a direct mailer, you can, and the best one still hands down that I ever got was a 16-to-1 return. So for every dollar I spent, I got $16 back.
Yes.
All right. And the best one I ever had was, and I'll never forget, when I was first starting out, used to be able to reverse search like all of the addresses, and that's when people had real phones and like phone numbers for their house, and you'd
Right.
get their names.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So I went and I looked at every house that needed a new roof in the
Yeah.
area, and I came back and I reverse searched it. I remember it spent forever, but I built a database for it, and I sent mailers out to them, like licked and put them in real envelopes so it looked like an official piece of mail. And I sold my very first job that way. And,
Yeah.
we sold a ton from those. I used them right up till we were launched, probably a decade later, the same list, because it
Yeah.
still gave me a return.
Yeah.
Now, again, marketing's gotten a little bit more modern where you can do the same with direct mail, but keep it simple, right? Think about first, what does this brand stand for? What is it that your company does really well? Who do they want to work for? Right? What's your avatar look like? And start crafting your brand, not around you and your ego. All right.
Right.
This is, again, you got to listen to this. This is This is stuff that saves you years of trial and error. Okay. Don't build a brand around you and your ego and what you do. Okay. Nobody cares, right? Like I said, nobody cares. Nobody cares about, only thing they care about is how can this brand help me with my problem? So would it not make more sense to take and change your views on brand marketing or direct response and move more to that and start building a brand around helping a group of people? What do you stand for? So like, again, if you are the best at, helping seniors retire into their homes, and you have a service that's really something they appreciate, old fashioned service, we don't send emails, like whatever, however you want to position it, but like you've started building a brand around that, all right, you're going to have far more success than guessing at what the market, because again, how many companies are out there that have great logos, brands, and they're out of business? Lots.
Oh,
right?
yeah.
Nobody comes to your business because you had a great logo. Nobody.
So the least important, I think, the thing that I think it's tempting, especially as artisans, right?
Mhm.
It's tempting to spend time and money on a really great logo,
Right.
but it's probably the least important thing.
Yeah, I would say so. And again,
Or it's
yeah. So I
far less
mean,
important than a good call to action.
it has a place for sure. But getting hung up on these things, and I talk to contractors day in and day out that truly, truly are trapped in their business. Okay, and I see it over and over playing out. One time after another. Even companies that are big, they've still not broken out of the trap. And the trap is, all right, that you're tied to what you do. All right.
Right.
Your identity is tied to what you do because you become that logo, right? You become, Alex the bricklayer,
Right.
right? Like, is that scalable? No, there's only one of
Well,
you.
no, it's not even.
Right.
Yeah, not
Right.
even
But again, like
opposite.
let's really put it into context here. Like when we're thinking about brand and we're thinking about what it means to us, because a lot of this marketing, this, look at me marketing that I see, all right, is all ego, right?
Yeah.
Because it's not thought out, it's not clear or precise, and it's not measured at the level it should be, right? Like if you're capable of doing your job costs, you're capable of measuring your marketing costs, and the two numbers are directly connected, right? You want to be more profitable, you want to have more money, more freedom, more time, learn how to market, right? There's nothing more important to invest in as a business owner, all right, just to understand and to be coherent of what marketing is. Right now, again, I'm not talking about spending the next 10 years like nerding out. I'm talking about understanding your brand and who it's going to serve, what they want to hear, what they want, what problems they actually have. There's a good saying for this, you got to find the hungry crowd and then feed
Right.
them,
Right.
right?
Right.
But many of us go out, we start off as carpenters or roofers or whatever, and we just assume that everybody wants that service. And it is a commodity, but within that roofing thing, there's about 10 different segments. And if you try and market to all of those segments, you're going to mean nothing to no one, right? You're just another company. Now, when you
Right.
change that and you start to really get clear about who you serve, what you serve, how you serve, right? And really focus on the customer that's going to bring you the best value, right? And the one that you can give the best value, the best value exchange. All right. Now we can really think about brand. We can think about, I want to be the champion of this demographic. And again, you don't need, this is the illusion, is that we have to be all these things. I see contractors do it over and over and
Yeah.
over again. I'm, Alex the bricklayer and the carpenter, and I'll clean your car and do your
Right.
taxes. Like
Yeah.
get that, like that does not scale. That is not doable, no matter who you are. And again, we see it like in big companies as well that have continued on this tradition of doing windows, doors, gutters. There's only one thing in their business that's profitable, but yet here they are offering 6 other things because they think it's going to bring in other
Right.
customers, that they're
Right.
afraid of. They've got the scarcity mindset, right? And again, I assure you, there is more of the exact kind of work that you're good at, right? And I mean, again, you can get really niche down. than you could ever serve probably in your 5 kilometer radius from where you stand right now.
Yeah, I think you're making a really good point. And, I had this experience where we, I had the experience of making a lot of terrible decisions and doing a lot of the wrong kind of work. So I learned the hard
Mm,
way by bidding the wrong jobs, losing a lot of money, and getting my ass handed to me. And then I drilled down and realized there were really two customer segments that we were
yep.
great at. And then we did those, and I had an interesting experience because while we had a 12,000 square mile area, which is a lot of, it's a lot, that's a big market, if you will. And there was one market that it was a town of 50,000 people.
Mhm.
And after like 4 years of focusing on just really two kinds of work, like people would stop me when they would see me wearing something, like the company, whatever, something branded, hoodie, t-shirt, hat, or my vehicle or whatever. And they would be, oh, you're doing whatever, thus and such. And the only reason that happened was we did do a lot of work, but that happened because we got really focused on this one specific, real too specific, but historical like
Yep.
restoration. And there's not that many people that do it, and we happen to do it really well. And then we trained and did it even better. And that brand recognition of getting stopped at the store or whatever
Mhm.
out in public, that only happened because we decided to say no to a whole lot of other work that we had been saying yes to and getting our teeth kicked in on. So you make a
Yep.
really good point. And that,
Well,
I mean, I had that experience. That's never happened before, for a company other than like large companies, like for a small company to be
right.
noticed in public, like because, I've got the company's name on my tee or whatever.
Yeah, no, and I mean, again, it like in terms of like objective, um, when it comes to marketing and branding, I'm not, I'm a big fan of having, a good looking logo and be like all those things are they, I don't
Yeah,
want
they're
to
not
rule them out.
bad.
Right.
Yeah.
But don't confuse them with generating leads. Don't
Right.
confuse them with developing your business or growing your business at a predictable pace, because there is, when you just put your logos on a t-shirt, all right, and let's say you spent $2,000 on that, okay? And this is what you really have to weigh out. If you only had $2,000 to spend on marketing and you chose to spend that money
Oh yeah.
on t-shirts with
Right.
the logos, your
No.
wait to get a return on those is going to be long and hard.
Right.
Okay.
Right.
So for the guys that are just, again, starting out or just, kind of getting their head wrapped around, how they get more business, there's obviously the predatory marketing companies out there that always, and I got caught up in it. Like, hey,
Yeah.
we'll build you this website, or we'll dance this pony and you'll get all these leads. They can't even know that it's coming to them because they don't even know who
Yeah.
they are as a business or who they serve. You would
Yeah.
say no to most of that marketing if you were sure of your market you were going to serve. So let me give you a very, very good
Yeah.
example
That's good. Yeah.
of why this is important. And I'll give you a real life example. So about 10 years ago, before I was really, I'm not even good or anything, but I've got my moments with marketing. But 10 years ago, we did something really smart and I didn't even know it. And then it went right over my head and it passed me by. But we did magnets. They were door hangers, but
Okay.
they had a refrigerator magnet on it that said, call J Carter Roofing, blah, blah, blah. Like, and it had a really cool like call to action. And we sent those out. We sent out 20,000 and they were expensive. Like I
Wow.
spent a lot back then, but they were
20,000.
really, oh yeah,
Whew,
they
man.
were like $3-4 a piece. Right. So,
Whew.
but again, and I was really, really, really nervous of it. Well, I'll tell you, it was the best, hands down, besides my first, direct mail campaign, which I couldn't replicate if I wanted to,
Right.
these days, but um, the best immediate ROI and long-term ROI. Okay. One magnet, one thing. Okay.
It's crazy.
So I'm still to this day getting calls from those magnets.
Get
To this
out.
day, I shit you not,
What?
we sold 6 jobs last year from them. So that's 10
That's
years later.
crazy.
Now here's the terrible part. Here's the stupid part. At the time that we
Wow.
sent these out, Okay. Obviously I was that was a big investment for me and
Yeah,
a
no
big
kidding.
expense. And although we tracked it in our CRM, I never bothered looking. I didn't know.
Okay.
So we took all these leads and it kind of got smorgasbord and mashed. And like again, we had a big run of jobs. And it wasn't until I had a coach and we were going through all these campaigns and I seen the magnets coming up. And this is like 5 years later, right?
Yeah.
And I'm seeing the magnets coming. He's like, why did you stop doing that?
Yeah,
He's
no
like, do
kidding.
you realize? And he, again, we went through the ROI. He's like, how much you spend 20,000? Like you've generated millions from that one campaign. And it's just because it spoke directly to the client I wanted to do business with.
Right.
It talked about the exact problem I could solve. Right. And it gave them something that they separated. It was novel. They put it on their fridge. When did they need a roof? Okay. Everyone was using, magnets at that time. So it worked, but I
Yeah.
stopped doing it. If I had just continued doing that, I wouldn't have had to worry about, lead flow or anything. But here I am buying bigger websites with the money I generated from it.
Right.
I never sent out another magnet, for another, I don't know, probably 5 or 6 years after that. But it wasn't until it was brought up. So my point that I'm trying to get to is
Yeah.
think about branding as if you're going to do it, it has to serve a direct response purpose. Okay.
Right.
So if I'm going to brand J Carter Roofing to something, it better be something that's going to be valuable to people that they're
Right.
not going to just throw in the garbage or, and if they do, you've gotten your message across clearly enough that they're going to remember you. Okay. Versus like, hey, again, like I said, you can have as many social media posts that never get seen as you want. You can do that forever, right?
Right.
If it's not getting in front of the eyes of people who will buy your service and pay the value you're worth, it is useless. And don't do
Right.
that. It's a waste of
Right.
time and energy. And this goes for even big companies. And I see it over and over again. We're dealing with a consulting project right now where it's probably the largest waste of marketing I've ever seen in my life. They're spending, extra, like unbelievable amounts on brand marketing. Exactly what we're talking about here,
Yeah.
where they're paying these subscriptions to be on park benches and stuff like that. That's bringing no business.
Right.
So why would you spend $20,000 to bring in 15 clients a year when you could spend $1,000 on a direct mail response and bring in 100?
Right.
Where's the logic, right? And what one is actually getting you results? Because again, I don't care if people knew my company but never called it when they had a problem. That would be terrible, right? So I
Right.
wonder how many people have been doing this branding. People
Yeah.
know who they are, but they're not calling them
They're not
because
calling. Yeah.
they're going to call the guy that was in front of them saying, "Hey, do you need this service?" Of
And
course.
I think that's why it's an important conversation, Jay, because it's not like, how do I say this? It's okay to be a great carpenter, roofer,
Mhm.
bricky, plumber, whatever, and not know anything about marketing.
That's right.
It's not okay to know it's not okay to continuously um, spend and to not know what kind of like what the yield or return is
Mhm.
on that. And we're not beating up on anybody here. It's okay to not know. It's okay to not be not be a marketer, because that's not,
Right. And I don't
marketers aren't good
recommend I
plumbers.
I don't I don't recommend trying to be both.
I mean, you're not hiring a marketer to come in and fix
Right.
whatever, right? To
Yeah.
frame a house. But at the same time, like, there are solutions out there. And, like, again, one of the greatest gifts I gave myself in the business was getting a little bit educated and knowing, like, this is not a good spend, right?
Mhm.
We're not gonna get it, see that we're not gonna see this now or soon enough for it to move the needle in the business.
Right.
And I think that's where, you know, there are so many solutions out there and solution providers that, you don't have to be a great marketer, as a carpenter, plumber, bricky,
No,
roofer,
not at
etc.
all.
But you've gotta be a good business person or good enough to, like, hire someone that's going to get you, and know that you should get a return. Like, you should get, like, if you spend, just rough numbers, if you spend $5,000, you should get 10 to like 100 to, 500 back, depending on what you're doing, right? I'm
Absolutely.
using really
So
rough numbers. That's
yeah, so
not
I'll use real numbers. Okay. So my marketing as it stands right now, we spend 5% of our gross revenue,
okay.
of all of our gross revenue. Now pay attention to that number. Okay. Now we're in a holding. I'm not trying to grow or expand or be the biggest, baddest. But I've had when I was growing or scaling, all right, I spent as much as 8 to 15% of my that's a
Whew,
massive budget. Okay.
that's a
Because what
lot.
did I say before? The guy that can afford to spend the most
Right.
wins. Okay.
Right.
So when you start to look at this, guys would just lose it. And I run into companies that brag to me constantly, run into it.
Right.
Oh, I've never, it's all word of mouth. Great. That's amazing. And how's that working? Well, I'm still on the tools. I'm still like, you know what I mean? When you start getting the backstory, I'm like, at the end of the day, the problem with that is, all it takes is one or two C or D clients. And now you're being marketed to C's or D's, and they're
Right.
not willing to pay your value. They're only picking you because they're price sensitive.
Right.
That's not like that's what marketing stops and it requires you to
Right.
hustle. All right. So I'll share my mindset on marketing and sales so that guys understand where they want to position themselves and what they want to work towards being. And when I'm saying this, I don't want any of the guys out there that are, and it might be confusing, but I mean this in the literal sense. Okay. Is
Okay.
that my identity, and when my business grew and when I finally got freedom and how it operates without me, all the things that we're all working towards, is one single thing changed. All right. And it was, first of all, the lead up to it was learning about return on investment in marketing. All right. Really like being intrigued by that almost as much as my profit and stuff, and understanding that's a lever. That's a tool. Just like you have tools in your tool belt,
Right.
same thing goes with your marketing. If you have been surviving on hustle, all right, that's being a great salesperson, knocking on doors, doing like you cannot long term sustain that.
Yeah.
Coming up against a company with great marketing will be and terrible sales. Okay. You don't need to be good at sales if you're great at marketing.
Right.
Okay.
Right.
Because people are already selling themselves. You're already communicating good things. So people are buying you before you even pick up the phone. Okay. But it's predictable. Again, just think of sheer energy and force that it takes here. Right. So when I changed this mindset and I stopped identifying myself as a contractor, and I said, and again, whether you have to take this, in a certain way, but I stopped being a contractor because I realized that Jay, the roofing contractor, could only capably himself earn,
Right.
maybe six figures, right?
Right.
But 100,000 if I worked really hard,
Right.
right? That's as much as I was going to get paid for the role that I would play in my company. And that was the CEO, everything. Okay. When I started saying, you're not a sales or you're not a CEO or you're not a roofing contractor, you're not an owner, you're not any of that. I'm a sales and marketing company.
Right.
I have two things that I need to worry about, and two things only, besides, two high level things, and that's to market and to sell. If I focus on those two things 80% of the time, all right, my business is going to grow. All right. And I proved it. Freedom has come. Being great at what I did as a roofer. All right. And being great at understanding, how roofs were installed or how houses are built or, how plumbing is done only serves you to the point that you can sell it.
Right.
Because once you make that switch, you have to remember that's the dead man's land, is between the identity of I am great at being a roofer or plumber or electrician, whatever, to I understand that if I put $1 up here, I get $4 back here. And I only have to do these things and speak to, direct my message to these people who are going to buy the service. And that's, you see what I'm saying? Sales marketing.
Yeah, I think, and I want you to, if you can go back to, and you're kind of
Sure.
explaining it, but maybe like, and then we'll go to final thoughts. So, like the lever thing, because I
Mhm.
think, again, the business that I took over did some marketing, but it was largely word of mouth. And then
Yeah.
when the mouths stopped talking,
right?
It was like crickets, right? The
Yeah,
phone stopped ringing. So, can you maybe talk about the lever
absolutely.
more, right? Because that's
So
something I don't think people really think about.
for sure. So what the way that I would explain it as best as I can is you got to think it as your tool belt. All right. Each marketing campaign that you have a measurable, returnable investment on, right? So maybe it's email, maybe it's
Right.
lawn signs, maybe it's those are levers that you can pull. So if you see your leads flows, or even better, if you're able to look at your historic sales and stuff and knew that, August was a slow month, well, I'm going to do a direct mail campaign before it's a problem because I'm
Right.
going to get myself in front of enough people. And guess what happens there? I get choice. Instead of being scarce, not enough leads, and dropping my price to get work, I'm actually got options and I'm only going to deal. I get to choose. That's really where we're going with this, right? So those levers give me options. And if I know my numbers well enough and I know that, hey, you know what, I've already ROI'd on this marketing campaign. All right. I already have a backlog of 3 months. I'm going to then take that information. I'm going to raise my price up until, I can't sell anymore. And then I'm going to pull another lever. All right. So again, campaigns are just like that. And when you start to understand that inside of a business, you start to be very almost more aware of the marketing side of it, because there's two things that I look at very carefully and that I understand as a contractor. Okay. My cost per acquired customer, right?
Yeah.
And the levers I have to pull to get the lowest cost per acquired customer. How much, like the cheaper I can get a customer acquired is the more money I can spend on acquiring customers. You see where I'm going with this? So
Yeah.
that's again, if I can afford to spend, 100,000 versus the guy that can afford to spend 10,000. Well, it
Right.
doesn't matter if he's the best salesman in the world. He'll never touch
Value.
me. Right.
Right.
I've already won by
Yeah.
default.
Yeah.
Right. And I think that guys miss this opportunity in understanding that, again, once you start to find levers and try it and test levers, again, I'm sharing some of my best campaigns that I've run. And you get your direct response, mindset into it. It's like, don't be advertising or marketing anything that doesn't come with, an action you want someone to take, and put it in front of the audience of people who want to, pay your value, right? When you
Right.
get those levers going, there are no ups and downs. All right. You can literally start removing variables and removing complicated things that don't allow you to scale, right? Like, I'll give you another good example. We don't need to have 25 staff to run our operation, right? Why is that? Like really think about it. It's because
Yeah.
I only do one type of work, one type of, like, for the same customer, the same problem, same
Right.
everything. They drive the same cars, they live in the same areas, they, like, my trucks are going to the same locations. Like, there's no variables. I'm not jumping from being a carpenter to being a drywall guy. I'm not doing any of that shit. All
Yeah.
right. And for builders, how much easier is it to build in the same neighborhood, building the same models? Like, if you've done it once, it gets more and
Yeah.
more and more efficient.
Yes.
If you can think about building your pipelines like that, where you're not taking jobs and you already know it's with a customer you don't want to do business with, and we've all been there. Like, let's be honest. I
Oh,
I
yeah.
still from time to time put myself through it just to make sure, but we all know, like, we've got it in our gut. Hey, you know what, this guy doesn't like, I don't want to really do business with this person, right? But question yourself right there and then, like, why? Is it because you don't have other options? Because if that's the case, that's a full on sign that you need to build some levers. Because if you're just taking work and you're surviving, right? Even guys, again, I will bring this up, and I will scream it from the top of the hills. I see too many companies they've got a good service and they've got a good operation marketed to the wrong people,
Yep.
right? So I see it over and again, like, and it astounds me, like, this company's so well operated, so well, they've got good men, they got good manpower, they, operationally they're in good shape, they know their numbers, but they just can't find enough work. And it kills me because it's not understanding that, hey, you know what, this is a part of the business too. You can't just be good at what you do. It
Right.
doesn't work like
Oh,
that.
no.
The world doesn't just open.
Right.
If nobody knows that you are the best at what you do, all right, no one's coming to look for you,
Right.
right? No one's going to, and the word of mouth people, really think about it. Like, it's not that scalable, right? And it's not putting you consistently in front of the people you want to do. Maybe you don't want to drive. Like, again, I even put it to guys like that. Like, what if you could just work in a 10-kilometer radius and you reduced your travel time,
Yeah.
you know, hundreds of hours a month?
Yeah. One of the best parts in my experience of deciding, like, one of the best parts of figuring out marketing for me was, like, I get to choose, like,
That's right.
because we started to do it well, I get to choose my customers.
Right.
Right. So we had all these leads coming in and I could say no to even going out. Right. We could filter it before it ever got to me. So I don't have to go out to this house or place or building that's, I'm never going to bid. It's a waste of my time. And there's a lead down the road that's burning, that the clock's ticking because
Right.
the next guy, the competition's down there already. Right.
Right.
So one of the best parts, and this will be my final thought, was of getting this part right in the business, was that I could say no. And like you said, like, I would turn up the dial or turn the lever up, and I could say no to the stuff that I knew this is going to be a problem, right? If I bid this, this is a fucking nightmare, right? I know I'm signing up for just pain, pain, pain. And that was, for me, that was one of the best experiences because I could choose who I wanted to work with.
Absolutely. And that's the power. That's whether you realize it or not, the contractors that are doing the best, and there's no debate about this. Okay. You look at the top 10% of contractors, they do two things very, very well, very, very well, above everybody else. They know their market and they know how to be in front of their audience that will pay their value more consistently than anybody else, period. Right. Because it flows into everything else you do. How do you just get up every day and, go and, serve somebody that, again, could be price sensitive, how do you stop it? And, again, you see these guys in the trap, like, it is literally the trap, because those guys, those price sensitive, need, tire kickers, we'll call them. All right. Do you not think they know, like, you're putting yourself in a community, right? Yeah. You're putting, but how many guys are taking a premium service into a tire kicker community and now wondering why they can't make a profit and have any freedom? It's because you are marketing to I won't say broke people, but price sensitive, we'll call it, right? And again, it's because of this brand marketing mentality that we have to serve everybody that comes through our door. I'll tell you, and Adrian, you know this very well. My favorite word is no. And I say it more often than I say yes.
Right.
And guys are like, what? Like, just think about that. Like, just digest that for a second. I get to say no and enjoy it now. I enjoy it. Like, if I don't think that maybe, you know what, like, I didn't like the way that guy looked at me, right? I'm not doing, no. That you look at my Google reviews, the only bad reviews I have is from people I said no to. Right. So, but again, here with that has come a good understanding that I can say no to anybody at any point, and it's not going to make a fucking difference in the world for my business. It's not good. Like, we will continue to thrive. And and when you get to that point now, you can start to be very, very picky about the customers you do business with. Right. And you can be positioned to sell your service for an exponential premium, right? The first part about it is when you market, you get to choose who you're in front of, right? So really what we're talking about here is, again, if you're feeling trapped as a contractor and you're having ups and downs and, good months, bad months, and you're on the roller coaster ride, ride that never ends, take a step back, all right? And really think about it. Who was the best customer you ever did business with, right? Who did you absolutely love and, like, gave you energy when that job was done and paid you well, paid you on time, paid you up front even, okay? What I will tell you about modern marketing is, if there's one, there's hundreds of thousands, if not millions.
That's right.
And they're more abundant than you could ever imagine.
Right.
The only thing stopping you from doing business with that same customer every single day, day in, day out, all right, is your marketing. Is the levers you have the power to pull. So if I were to make any investment in myself, in my business, in my future, in my freedom, I'm going to make the investment of learning first about basic marketing, which, by the way, um, shameless plug, we train. We have lots of systems for, we consult for. So if you are looking for help, more than happy to help you, even if it's just getting you on the right path. But at the end of the day, remember that. What do you want? Is it having enough choices? Because choices bring freedom, right?
Yeah.
Really, that's what we're talking about. If you had enough high paying customers at your door, just constantly warm and ready to go, what would your business look like? Right? What would your life look like? Could you be more picky or choosy? Like, hey, you know what? I've gotten to the point where if a roof or if a project, like I said, I don't think we can be in and out of, I just say no. I don't deal with builders, and like we don't deal with builders anymore. We just, any resistance is too much resistance for us, right? And we can be like that. We've
Right.
got those choices. Now we pay a premium, and we make big investments on that, but those investments are still returning a 4-to-1. So every quarter I can still count on, no matter what, for the dollar I put in up here, I've gotten 4 back. Right. So again, you want to look at your business as a real business owner and with a real business mindset. Try to start to shift that direction.
I think, final thoughts. I think that, I think the big takeaway for me today is 2 things. One, it's, if we do it right, it is like a lever, right? Where we can push that forward, and we can get back, we can put $1 in, and in your case get $4 back, right? Which comes in the form of leads that we go out. And then, the other part is that it is an investment, right?
Yep.
So we make an investment in our business. It's not just, so we don't just throw as much money as we can afford to spend and then just, hope what comes back is,
Right.
and then bid everything that comes back. But, like, do it intelligently, know who we want to do business with.
That's right.
And, and I think, so going back to what you were saying about some of our solutions, you helped me with this when I was running the Mason restoration business, in defining who, further defining who our avatar was. And, that's a powerful thing, man, because
Well,
you know who to say no to.
well, you also know where your avatar hangs out, right?
Right.
So
And
again, when
finding
you
out
make that
where they are.
connection,
That's right.
now we start branding. Now, like, again, putting your brand somewhere where your ideal avatar is never going to see it or ever going to acknowledge it is a
Right.
waste of money or time, right?
Right. Just
Yeah,
spraying,
right.
yeah.
Just, and then that's why guys come back and they're disheartened by, oh, I
Right. They're
tried
like, this
this and I
doesn't
tried
work.
that.
This doesn't
Right.
work.
Of course it doesn't, because it was never intended to, right?
Right.
It's a again, it's a mistake, and it's not, it's very common, and I think every contractor at one point or another makes it. But it doesn't have to be that way. And you're absolutely right. Like, getting clear about who it is you want to serve, who can afford to pay the prices you want to charge,
Right.
and where they are located, right? What they like, all that stuff then allows you to build a brand. It then allows you, like, why build a brand or have a message that
Right.
says something that doesn't resonate with the people who actually pay you, right? Like,
Right.
what's the point? Like, again, and I see it over and over again. Like, how many of these guys that have, we're general contractors behind their name and they're trying to push roofing. It's like, guys, you're only driving away the people that would actually pay you,
Right.
because they want a specialist. They want, again, we're in that day and
Right.
age. They don't need, they don't see any benefit of you trying to do everything for them. They want one specific thing. They want it solved, by a professional, by a pro. And if you're in front of them when they need that, and you ask them, hey, you looking for a roof? Yes, I'm looking for a roof. Great. We can be friends. Is that not much easier than the other route, which is, throw your Batman sign up in the air and hope that someone sees it? Like, come on, guys. Like, it is really like that, right? And again, a lot of it is maturity in your business and just deciding, hey, you know what? I want I want more freedom. I want more choices. I want more opportunities to help my business grow. I want these opportunities for, again, maybe it's to spend more time with your family. Maybe it's to, have more branding or more marketing. I don't know, like,
Yeah.
whatever your piece is, right?
So for folks that want to be able to build that lever build that system where that
Mhm.
investment, where they put money in, they get money out. Want to learn more about, you know, getting some help on who their target customer is, et cetera, et cetera. Um,
Yeah. So
what do we got here for them?
book a strategy call. I mean, the thing that we do, again, is we build really, really great systems. So building your marketing, the heart of your marketing, where all these campaigns would go to, CRM, stuff like that. That is what we do. The training, getting your avatars down. Again, we have training for that so that you're clear, so you can build a system and you can, start to confidently spend money on marketing. And of course, we offer, those services as well. We have done for you and done with you packages. So wherever you are in your budget, if you're willing to do a little bit of work and put time in, or for other guys that are super busy, just want this problem solved, I mean, that's what we're here for.
Just
So
execute.
we'll give you it both ways, right? So welcome anybody that's willing to learn, and we're happy to teach, and show you the systems that we're building, and you can use them in your own. Or like I said, for most contractors, they just want to get the problem solved. That's something that we serve as well.
Well, thanks everybody for being with us. We're back next Friday, 3 o'clock. Also, I go live on Mondays at noon. So check me out, check us out next week. Thanks everybody that's been with us for the last hour, and we'll see you next week.
Bye.